Testing. Testing. Ladies and gentlemen, it is your fellow WIHSEA commentator, Andrew Jr., pleased to be joining you this evening to go over a season recap of the 2022 Rocket League spring season. Before I begin, I just want to say I hope you guys have had a really good day so far. For me, on the other hand, my power went out last night from about midnight to 5:30 a.m., so I got a little bit of sleep. Not much though, but nonetheless, I'm still here going to provide a season recap of the 2022 Rocket League spring season for WIHSEA. So let's get started here. So we got the winter warm up tournament, and this happened on February 11th, 2022, where I made my debut as a caster for WIHSEA. So the rules for the tournament was it was a Swiss style bracket. There was 4 rounds. It was a best of 3 format. Top 4 made the playoffs. Playoffs would be best of 5. Stadium would be DFH Stadium. All cars are allowed, and then all matches organized in a private lobby. So over here to the right, you can see the results from each round here. So in round 1, you see that Walden had a forfeit win. Lafayette A or Horlick beat Lafayette A 2-1. Should probably fix that. This looks weird. RVA defeats Mount Horeb 2-0. Union Grove loses to Waukesha South 0-2. Bruce defeats Edgewood 2-0. And then move on to round 2. It's kind of the same thing. It's more like it's a switch style bracket, pretty much. Everybody gets to play each other. And we had I think one team that ended up forfeiting. I think it was Lafayette B that forfeited. So if it looks a little wonky, that's why. So yeah, see Horlick beats Walden there. Bruce beats RVA. Waukesha South gets a forfeit. Edgewood gets a forfeit. So I guess there was two. I guess there was two teams that forfeited. Oh well. All right. Lafayette A defeats Mount Horeb in round 2, and then move over to round 3. Waukesha South again, winning for the third straight time over their opponents. Horlick beats RVA. Walden beats Lafayette A. Edgewood beats Mount Horeb. And then round 4, Waukesha South defeats Horlick. Walden defeats Bruce. Edgewood defeats Lafayette. And finally, Mount Horeb defeats RVA 2-1. So over here, this is supposed to say the overall record here. I don't know what happened. So standings, we'll go overall record. Okay. So yeah, the difference between overall record and game record, for those of you who don't know, the overall record is the team's winning percentage for the entire series. So for the game wise, you know how it's like a best of 5, a best of 7. That is where the game record comes into play. But the overall record is whichever team wins the game in total. I know it's pretty hard to understand because I'm tired here trying to explain this, but yeah. So you see Waukesha South 4-0, Horlick is 3-1, Walden was 2-1, Edgewood was 2-1, Bruce was 2-2, RVA Rural Virtual Academy was 1-2, Lafayette A 1-3, Mount Horeb 0-3. And then game record side, we have Waukesha South 8-0, Horlick 6-2, Walden the third, excuse me, 5-2, Edgewood 4-2, Bruce 4-4, Rural Virtual Academy 3-6, Lafayette A 3-6, Mount Horeb 2-6. So yeah, and then the playoff matches that occurred from later on in the tournament were Horlick versus Walden and Edgewood versus Waukesha South. Unfortunately, could not find the official score for this one. I tried to look back at the video, couldn't really find it. But I did find the one for Horlick and Walden. It was a 3-2 win for Horlick. A pretty amazing series to cast. And then in the finals, obviously, we had Horlick and Waukesha South. Waukesha South winning over Horlick 3-0 in order to advance to the border battle to take on Minnesota Varsity League's Spring Lake Park. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the winter warm-up tournament. So if you did not get to see this, unfortunately, don't worry because it is on the WIHSEA YouTube channel, so you can view that whenever you want. All right, let's move on to the border battle. So the border battle was between WIHSEA and MNVL, Minnesota Varsity League. 3 games were featured here. You have Overwatch, that was a best of 5. You had Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, that was another best of 5. And then the finale was Rocket League with best of 7. So let's talk about Overwatch real quick. So, Farmington versus Edgewood. So you may be confused here at the end of these games. It says in control in escort. That is the mode that it was in for Overwatch. And the score right here was the score of the match. So game 1, you see that Edgewood defeats Farmington 2-0 in control. Basically, that's capturing the objective in Overwatch. And then game 2, we have Edgewood defeating Farmington 3-2 in escort. That's pretty much escorting a payload. One team or 2 teams take turns of either pushing the payload or defending it. Same thing here with game 3. Edgewood defeats Farmington 3-2 in escort. All right, so Edgewood ended up winning that 3-0 overall in dominating fashion. Now we have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now this is the controversial one, pretty much. So I just put MNVL versus WIHSEA here because there was various amounts of players from each side playing within these 5 games. You had this Mona from WIHSEA really just dominating for like the first couple of games here until he unfortunately had to leave. I forgot the reasoning as to why he left. I don't know if it was a personal reason, but that definitely led. That was definitely a key part in Minnesota being able to come back here. But we're not going to discredit Minnesota because they played great as well in these games. But yeah, you see game 1, Wisconsin defeats Minnesota 15-2. Now this is for each game. It was the first team to 15 stocks wins or 15 eliminations for the Smash Bros. Games. I think each were 3 stock, and then it would just evolve over time. Like if one person just had 1 stock left and they had to go up against somebody else, they would keep that stock and have to eliminate the other guy 3 times in order to not die in some situations. Game 2, we saw the same amount of dominance here from WIHSEA over MNVL as they won 15-4. And then game 3 is where the momentum shifted. It was a very tight one here. Minnesota defeated Wisconsin 15-14. And then in game 4, same thing. Minnesota defeats Wisconsin 15-13. So it's not like the players representing WIHSEA were not doing that well. It's just that they got a little bit more outplayed by Minnesota. It's not like Minnesota dominated them, but still they won at the end of the day. And then game 5, Minnesota defeats Wisconsin 15-12. And MNVL takes the series 3-2 in a reverse sweep. Now, the funny thing about this is me and Kyle we're in a Discord call. We were waiting for the Rocket League portion of this border battle to begin. And we were sitting there, we were like, this is going on for like 4 hours now. So we didn't know what to do. So we ended up, leaving the call for a little bit, going back, trying to figure out when this would end. So yeah, the Smash Bros stream lasted like a good 4 to 5 hours, I would say. The Overwatch one didn't even last that long, probably like an hour and a half, something like that. But yeah, the Smash Bros one was pretty intense. And if you want to watch this, I believe it's still on MNVL's Twitch. You'll just have to go to their either past broadcasts or all videos, and it should be there. Now, moving on to the Rocket League portion here. me and Kyle, aka X-Ray, had the opportunity to cast this best of 7 series here. Now, to this point, Waukesha South was known as the upstarts, and they were heading into this matchup against Spring Lake Park. Now, I personally was expecting Waukesha South to potentially sweep Spring Lake Park here, but a surprising result indeed. As in the first game, Spring Lake Park defeated Waukesha South 2-1 goal wise. And then Waukesha South came back for game 2 and defeated Spring Lake Park with 2-0. And then Spring Lake Park just took control of the rest of the series here, winning 2-1, 2-1, and then 3-2. And that resulted in Spring Lake Park winning the best of 7 series 4-1, which also led to Minnesota defeating Wisconsin in the first ever border battle, tournament 2-1. So yeah, that is all I have for that. So let's move on to the regular season / playoffs match selections here. I kind of went all out with the sheet here. Maybe just zoom it in a little more so you can see it better. See how that looks. Okay, that looks good. All right, so yeah, these are all the games that were selected to be featured on stream. Now, if you look at the series score for some of these games, they're just flat out, sweeps one way or the other. But you know what we wanted was variability with these games here. I know there's a lot of Division 1 in here as well, but that was like the marquee division for Varsity here. So let's just go through these real quick. So for Varsity's game for week 1, we had Horlick versus Waukesha South. Obviously a Division 1 matchup. Series score was 3-0. Same result as the winter warm-up tournament. This was, again, sort of a grudge match here. But same result as Waukesha South walked out on top 3-0. And you have West Salem A versus Port Washington A for the first JV game stream. And that ended in a 3-1 win for West Salem A. And in week 2, we saw Wausau West taking on De Pere, another Division 1 matchup for Varsity. Ended in a 3-1 contest in favor of Wausau West. Then we had Random Lake versus Marshall, a Group 3 matchup, and Marshall swept Random Lake 3-0 that time around. In week 3, bounced back to Horlick as they took on Bayport, and they won 3-2. Week 3's JV game was Fox Valley Lutheran versus Jefferson A. Group 2 matchup, Fox Valley won 3-1 over Jefferson A. And then week 4's varsity game, Walden versus Edgewood. Now this one, I was expecting it to go all the way. I was expecting to go all 5 games, but no. Walden shocked everybody pretty much, including myself, as they swept Edgewood 3-0 in this matchup. And JV's week 4 matchup. Now here's a little side note for this game right here. This was the first game that I streamed that I actually, had a LAN cable. I mean, it was great to finally have a LAN cable. I mean, most of you guys have seen the streams from previous weeks here, and they were god awful in quality to say the least. But I'm glad that I invested in the LAN cable. Nonetheless, Horlick B defeated Green Bay Southwest A here, 3-1. And then we go to week 5's matchup, Bayport versus Case. And Case absolutely mopped the floor with Bayport as they swept them 3-0. And Wausau West A and De Pere A was the JV game. And De Pere A came out on top, 3-0. Now for this week 6 matchup between Wisconsin Connections Academy and Random Lake, this was supposed to be the varsity game of that day. But as you can see right here, game not streamed due to technical difficulties. If you want the specifics here, Windows updates. Let this be A public service announcement to always update your computer and make sure you have no Windows updates, or else stuff like this is going to happen. Nonetheless, though, Random Lake defeated Wisconsin Connections Academy 3-0 here. Man, wish I would have been able to stream that one. Moving on, we have Jefferson B versus West Salem A, another 3-0 finish as Jefferson B walks all over West Salem A. Going to week 7 here, we have Stevens Point versus Wausau West. And Wausau West came on top 3-1. I think this game was chosen because other schools were on spring break. Some of these, like some of the ones in like late April and stuff like that, were picked due to schools being on spring break. So there's that little disclaimer. Week 7, potentially my favorite game I've casted this season, alongside X-Ray. Pacelli A versus Rock University B. A Group 4 matchup went all 5 games with Pacelli A taking it 3-2. I mean, this was back and forth action here. And if you have not seen this matchup, I highly recommend going and watching it on the WIHSEA YouTube channel because, man, absolute perfection this series was. And matchup. And then finally, week 8, we closed out with Case versus Wausau West. And Case surprisingly beats Wausau West 3-0 here. 2 undefeated teams here in week 8. A little bit of surprising score there. But not really when you consider how dominant Case was heading into the playoffs. We'll talk about the playoffs here in a little while. Rounding out week 8, we had Slinger A versus Lafayette A, another matchup that had to be chosen because other schools were either on spring break or could not compete due to unforeseen circumstances, as Lafayette A takes the 3-0 win here. Over Slinger A. And now we move on to the playoffs that were selected here. So we had Lancaster versus, or the 5 seed Lancaster versus the 4 seed East Troy. Division 3 matchup. East Troy ended up winning 3-1 here. It was a pretty good first round matchup. Want a little more diversity here, so that's why Division 3 was chosen for the first round. Now the quarterfinals game. This was held at the Carthage Esports Arena. Horlick versus Case. Number 4 seed Horlick, number 1 Case. Obviously, Division 1 matchup, a marquee matchup at best. Case came out on top 3-1. And this is where Case had pretty much almost all of the momentum heading into the playoffs. But there was one other team that also had momentum, that being Waukesha South. As you can see here, it's kind of a storyline here, as I would like to put it. Because Waukesha South was pretty much dominant the entire season. Other than, the Spring Lake Park matchup, which really didn't matter because it was preseason. And they only lost 2 games in total throughout the entire season and playoffs as well. We'll get to that in a bit here. But regular season records here, we have JV and varsity as well. We'll do JV real quick first. So Hot Shot Conference for Group 1, we had the Pier A leading with an 8-0 record. So as you see, in bold is the overall record, and unbolded is the win percentage. So the Pier A 8-0, Lafayette A 7-1, Wausau West A 5-3, Oak Creek 5-3, Superior 3-4, Orlick A 2-6, Slinger B 1-7, Green Bay Southwest B 0-7. And then game record wise, the Pier A 24-1, Lafayette A 22-4, Wausau West A 15-9, Oak Creek 16-10, Superior 11-12, Horlick A 8-18, Slinger B 4-21, and Green Bay Southwest B 0-21. And win percentage plays a huge factor in the rankings of the placements for these teams. It's not just about the record, it's about the win percentage as well. And some of the teams you're going to see here have not played all 8 games in the season. which is a little weird, but it's whatever. Merck Conference for Group 1. The Pier B on top. The Pier really took Group 1 as a whole. Both of their teams on top of each conference here. The Pier B finished 7-0. Case's JV team did really well, finishing 6-0. Lafayette B did well as well. Yeah, Lafayette, the Pier, and Case did really, really well. And Oak Creek, too. Don't sleep on Oak Creek. Oak Creek was pretty good this year. Slinger A 4-4. Horlick B 3-5. Wausau West B 1-6. Green Bay Southwest A 1-6. Union Grove 0-6. Game records wise, 21-3 for the Pier B. Case 18-0. Lafayette B 18-5. Slinger A 13-13. Horlick B 11-17. Wausau West B 6-20. Green Bay Southwest A 5-20. And Union Grove 0-18. Ooh. All right, moving on to Group 2 here in the Roadhog Conference. A pretty small conference. Only 7 here, as opposed to 8 or 9 in some of the other groups. So Fox Valley Lutheran came on top here, 8-0 record. Mount Horeb B follows. There's a huge drop-off here, as Mount Horeb B only played 6 games in comparison to Fox Valley Lutheran, who played 8. As they finished only 4-2. Jefferson B only 3-2. Shawano B 4-4. Port Washington B 2-2. Ashwaubenon 1-5, and Medford A 1-7. And then game record wise, we see Fox Valley Lutheran 24-2, Mount Horeb B 12-9, Jefferson B 9-6, Shawano B 14-13, Port Washington B 7-7, Ashwaubenon, 4-17, Medford A 8-23. Moving on to the Massamune Conference in Group 2, West Salem A came on top, 4-1. See, here's an example of what I'm talking about here. The win percentage here is what matters most, not the overall record. So there's an example of what I was trying to talk about before. Nonetheless, so West Salem A 4-1, Mount Horeb A 6-2, Shawano A 4-2, Jefferson A 3-2, Port Washington A 4-3, Medford B 1-7, and Mount Horeb C 0-6. And then game record wise, we see West Salem A 12-4, Mount Horeb A 19-7, Shawano A 14-6, Jefferson A 10-8, Port Washington A 14-11, Medford B 5-21, and Mount Horeb C 0-18. All right, moving on to Group 3 here. We have the Esper Conference. We have Lancaster B, who came in with a 5-1 overall record. Marshall with a 4-1 record. Random Lake 6-2. Wrightstown C 4-3. Watoma 4-4. Two Rivers 2-5. West Salem B 2-5. And Rural Virtual Academy B 1-8. Game record wise, 15-6 for Lancaster B, 12-3 for Marshall, 18-8 for Random Lake. Wrightstown C had 12-10. Watoma 13-14. Two Rivers 8-16. West Salem B 7-16. And finally, Rural Virtual Academy B 8-25. Grog Conference, we have Walden finishing on top with a 6-1 overall record. Wrightstown B follows 3-2 overall record. Weyawega Fremont 4-3. Lancaster A 4-3. Rural Virtual Academy A 2-4. West Salem C 2-4, and Wrightstown A 1-4. Walden finished with an 18-7 game record. Wrightstown B a 9-7 record. Weyawega Fremont, say that 5 times fast, with a 17-9 game record. Lancaster A 16-11. Rural Virtual Academy A 8-14. West Salem C 6-14. Wrightstown A 3-12. And finally, we have the end of the JV section. Group 4, the Marauder Conference. We have Deerfield 7-1 overall, Montello A 6-2, Warrior 5-2, Rock University A 3-2, Bondul A 4-3, Pacelli B 3-4, Flambeau 0-5, Granton 0-2, Edgar 0-5. Game record, we have 21-3 for Deerfield, 18-60 from 18-16 or 18-6, excuse me, for Montello A. Warrior 15-6, Rock University A 9-6, Bondul A 12-9, Pacelli B 9-13, Flambeau 1-15, Granton 0-6, Edgar 0-15. And finally, we have the Takumi Conference for Group 4. Pacelli A 7-1 overall, Wisconsin Connections Academy 5-3 overall, New School 4-4, Rock University B 3-4, Bondul B 2-3, Cambria Friesland 2-4, Bruce 2-4, and Hillsboro 1-5. Game record wise, 21-8 for Pacelli A, excuse me. Wisconsin Connections Academy 18-9, New School 14-15, Rock University B dead on 500 here, 14-14, Bondul B 7-9, Cambria Friesland 12-14, Bruce 6-16, and finally Hillsboro 3-16. So that was a little rundown of each team's record for JV within all 4 groups and all 8 conferences. Let's move on to varsity. Oh, okay, so that's why this Mona had to leave. Okay, thanks, Rotec. Just saw that message right now. All right, so what I did with the varsity here that's different from JV is you notice I have a key here to determine how far each varsity team made it in their playoffs for their respective divisions. So NA equals did not make the playoffs. X equals lasted until the first round. Y equals eliminated in quarterfinals. Z semifinals. The arrow equals finals. The pound equals division champion. And then the 1 in brackets means undisputed champion. So, Octane Conference starting it out. The Division 1 champions and your reigning, defending, undisputed Rocket League champions of WIHSEA, Waukesha South, finished 8-0 overall, 24-0 game record-wise in the regular season, absolutely dominating the competition. Following them, we had Oak Creek making it to the finals against Waukesha South. They finished 7-1 overall in their inaugural season. Did pretty well for their inaugural season. We had 2 teams in the finals for Division 1 who played in their inaugural season, that being these 2 teams right here, Waukesha South and Oak Creek. Massive props to both teams here. They played amazing throughout the entire season. Moving on, though, Oak Creek finished with a 21-4 game record. Superior lasted until the semifinals. They finished 6-1 overall in the regular season, 18-8 game record-wise. Horlick lasted until the quarterfinals against Case. They finished 5-3 overall, 18-12 game record. Bayport lasted until the quarterfinals as well. Finished 4-4 overall, dead even in that department. 16-14 game record wise though. Lafayette A followed the same path as Horlick and Bayport, finishing in the quarterfinals. Overall record of 3-5, game record of 13-15. Appleton East made it to the first round. First round exit for them. 1-7 overall, 3-21 game record wise. Same fate for Green Bay Southwest, as they were only 1-7, 3-23 game record wise. And the only team to not make the playoffs in the Octane Conference was West Dallas Central, finishing 0-7 overall, 2-21 game record wise. Moving on to the second conference in Division 1. Man, this division is absolutely loaded here. We have the Dominus Conference. Case finishing in the semifinals, had an overall record of 7-0, game record of 21-1. Moving on, Wausau West finished in the quarterfinals. Overall record of 6-1, game record of 18-8. The Pier, Waterford, Slinger, Stevens Point, Kettle Moraine, and Park all made it into the first round and were eliminated in the first round. The Pier A 4-3 overall, 14-9 game record. Waterford 3-3 overall, dead on even there. Game record 9-11. 9-11. Slinger 3-4 overall. Game record dead on 50%, 14-14. Stevens Point 3-4 overall, 11-14 game record. Kettle Moraine only 1-6 overall, 6-19 game record. And Park 0-6 overall, 1-18 game record. So that is the statistics for Division 1. Let's go on to Division 2. So the Fennec Conference. We see Fox Valley Lutheran made it to the semifinals. 8-0 overall, 24-1 game record. Mount Horeb, Port Washington, Wisconsin Lutheran, DeForest, Ashwaubenon, and Sauk Prairie all, I messed this up. Mount Horeb, Port Washington, Wisconsin Lutheran, DeForest all made it into the quarterfinals. So Mount Horeb 6-1 overall, 18-4 game record. Port Washington 6-2 overall, 18-8 game record. Wisconsin Lutheran 5-3 overall, 16-9 game record. And finally, DeForest finishing out the teams that made it into the quarterfinals for the Fennec Conference, 5-3 overall, 17-11 game record. Now, Ashwaubenon and Sauk Prairie and New London all made it into the first round for the Fennec Conference. Ashwaubenon finishing 3-5 overall, 9-15 game record. Sauk Prairie 2-6 overall, 6-18 game record. New London 0-7, 1-21 game record, and Wilmot was the only team in the Fennec Conference not to make the playoffs. 1-7 overall, 4-22 game record. Moving on to the Scarab Conference, we have Fort Atkinson, who made it to the finals against the team below, Shawano. As Fort Atkinson finished 6-0 overall, an 18-1 game record. And the Division 2 champion, Shawano, finished 5-1 overall, 16-4 game record. And Whitnall was the only team in the Scarab Conference to make it to the semifinals. 5-3 overall record, 16-12 game record. And Union Grove, Seymour, and Reedsburg all made it into the first round from the Scarab Conference. Union Grove finishing 2-3 overall, 9-9 game record. Seymour finishing 1-4 overall, 3-12 game record. And finally, Reedsburg finishes 1-5 overall, 5-15 game record. And Baraboo was the only team in the Scarab Conference to not make the playoffs in Division 2, finishing 0-6 overall, 0-18 game record. Ooh. Misclick. Those are very common these days. Anyway, Division 3, here we go. Rural Virtual Academy, Winnebago Lutheran, and West Salem all made it into the quarterfinals. Rural Virtual Academy at 7-1 overall, 22-4 game record wise. Winnebago Lutheran 6-1 overall, 19-6 game record, and West Salem 5-3 overall, 18-9 game record. Lancaster, Jefferson, Lodi, New Holstein, and Ripon all made it into the first round of the playoffs in the Triton Conference. Lancaster finishing 4-4, 12-12, 4-4 overall, 12-12 game record wise, dead even in both categories here. Pretty interesting to see. Jefferson finishes 3-4 overall, 10-12 game record. Lodi follows the same path overall wise, finishing 3-4, but have one more loss, as their game record is 10-13. New Holstein finishes 3-4 as well, and they have one less win than both Jefferson and Lodi, finishing 9-13 game record wise. Ripon finished 1-6 overall, 3-18 game record. And Richland Center was the only team in a Triton conference to not make the playoffs, as they finished 0-8 overall, 0-24 game record wise. And now the Gizmo Conference, we have the Division III champions, Walden, as they finished 7-0 overall, game record of 21-0. Edgewood made the finals against Walden, and they finished 6-1 overall. In the season, their only loss coming from Walden. And we'll get to this matchup, Walden and Edgewood, here in a bit as we go over the playoffs recap. Edgewood finishes 18-4 game record wise. Marshall and East Troy, the only teams in the Gizmo Conference to make it to the semifinals. As Marshall finishes 5-2 overall, 16-9 game record wise. East Troy finishes 4-3 overall, 14-9 game record wise. Two Rivers makes the quarterfinals. They finished 4-3 as well, but only a 12-9 game record there. Watoma, Bigfoot, and the Coosa all made it to the first round of the playoffs in the Gizmo Conference. We have Watoma finishing 3-3 overall and 9-9 game record wise. Another dead even team in the realms of both overall record and game record. Bigfoot and the Coosa both follow similar paths, as they both hit 0-7 overall, 0-21 game record wise. And finally, for the regular season records for Varsity, we have Division 4. And on top of the Backfire Conference, you have the Division 4 champions, Bruce, finishing 8-0 overall, 24-2 game record wise. Pacelli, the only team making it to the quarterfinals from the Backfire Conference, finished 6-2 overall, 19-11 game record. Real was able to make it to the semifinals, as they have a 5-3 overall record, 19-9 game record. BSMS, a surprising team, actually made the finals against Bruce. Unexpected to say the least. But they finished 4-4 overall and 14-12 game record. Weyawega Fremont and Cambria Friesland both made the first round, emerging from the Backfire Conference, as Weyawega Fremont finished 3-5 overall, 10-15 game record. Cambria Friesland follows the same path, as they finished 3-5 overall as well, except they had one less win in their game record, as they finished with 9-15. Edgar and Fenimore both missed the playoffs in the Backfire Conference, as Edgar finished 1-7 overall with a 3-21 game record. Fenimore 0-8 overall and 0-24 game record wise. In the Breakout Conference, the last conference in Division 4 and in Varsity that we're going to cover here, as Random Lake and Wisconsin Connections Academy both made the quarterfinals. Random Lake finishing 8-0 overall, game record 24-0. Wisconsin Connections Academy 7-1 overall, 21-3 game record. Coming in to the semifinals, we had Deerfield finishing 6-2 overall, 18-7 game record. Williams Bay making it to the quarterfinals. They finished 5-3 overall, 15-9 game record. Warrior, Bondul, and Flambeau all made it into the first round, emerging from the Breakout Conference. Warrior finishes 3-5 overall, 10-15 game record. Bondul follows the same path overall, as their record is 3-5, but their game record is a little bit different than Warrior, as they finished 9-17 in that department. Flambeau finishes 2-6 overall, 7-18 game record, and Granton was the only team from the breakout conference to not make the playoffs for Division 4, or in Division 4, I should say, as they have an 0-8 overall record and 0-24 game record. Now, on to the final piece of the spreadsheet here that I created. We have the playoffs recap for each division. Make sure it's not too big. No, it should be. Maybe we can go a little bit. Maybe go a little. I don't know. I feel that's too big. We'll just go 150. Anyway, let's cover division. Let's focus on Division 1 first here. So I broke this down based on how the bracket looked from the WIHSEA website. It is no longer on the WIHSEA website. So luckily I had this in my notes in a way that I can envision it being the left side of the bracket and the right side of the bracket coming together here. So in the first one on the left side of bracket, we had these matchups. The 8 seed Park versus the 1 seed Waukesha South. Waukesha South came out on top 3-0 to advance to the quarterfinals in the left side of the bracket. Bayport, number 5 seed Bayport, followed the same path as they defeated number 4 seed Waterford. Same thing with Superior as they won over 6 seed Stevens Point. And Wausau West defeated number 7 seed Appleton East. All series ended up in 3-0 sweeps. Sort of the same thing as you jump over to the right side, as we jump over to the right side of the bracket. As Case sweeps Green Bay Southwest. Horlick defeats Slinger 3-0. Lafayette defeats De Pere 3-1. That is the only outlier we see here within the first round of either side for Division 1. And we have Oak Creek defeating Kettle Moraine 3-0 as well. Moving on to the quarterfinals, we see the 5th seed, or quarterfinals left side of bracket, excuse me. We have the 5th seed Bayport taking on 1 seed Waukesha South. Waukesha South stomps all over Bayport as they take it 3-0. Number 3 seed Superior defeats number 2 seed Wausau West 3-1. Both teams advance to the semifinals. Or I should say they play each other in the semifinals. At quarterfinals, we see the Horlick versus Case game. Obviously, Case coming out on top 3-1 there at the Carthage Esports Arena. And Oak Creek defeats Lafayette 3-1. Semifinals, we had the 1 seed Waukesha South defeating Superior. Could not get the series score there. I don't think we casted that game. I think NTC Esports did. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't remember casting the semifinal. I do remember casting the right side of the bracket semifinal, though, with Kyle, a.k.a. X-Ray. Oak Creek versus Case. Now, this one was a huge, huge upset, as some people were expecting Case to go to the grand finals, including myself here, but Oak Creek, man, they put on a really good showing in these playoffs, defeating Case 3-2 here to advance to the grand finals to take on Waukesha South. And let me tell you, this grand finals here, this Division 1 grand finals, Waukesha South versus Oak Creek. This series goes up with the Bocelli A versus Rock University B, but I'm going to take this series over Bocelli A and Rock University B, obviously because 1, it's playoffs, 2, it's grand finals. But yes, Waukesha South comes out on top 4-3 in this series, and they are crowned Division 1 champions in their inaugural season. But don't discredit Oak Creek. Oak Creek is a team to watch for next year, as well as potentially Case and Waukesha South, obviously, in Division 1. All right, moving on to Division. NTC casted it was 3-0. Thank you, Rogue Tech. All right, so moving on to Division 2 here. In the left side of the bracket, we had Fox Valley Lutheran receiving a first round bye. Obviously, no series score here because Fox Valley got a first round bye. Number 5 seed DeForest defeats number 4 seed Union Grove 3-0. Number 3 seed Port Washington defeats number 6 seed Reedsburg 3-0. And number 2 seed Shawano defeats number 7 seed Sauk Prairie 3-0. Moving on to the right side of the bracket for first round, we had number 1 seed Fort Atkinson defeating number 8 seed New London 3-0. Number 4 seed Wisconsin Lutheran defeating number 5 seed Seymour 3-0. Number 3 seed Whitnall defeating number 6 seed Ashwaubenon 3-0. And number 2 seed Mount Horeb defeating number 7 seed Baraboo via forfeit. Quarterfinals for the left side of the bracket. We saw Fox Valley defeating Fox Valley defeating number 5 seed DeForest 3-0. Number 2 seed Shawano defeating number 3 seed Port Washington 3-1. Quarterfinals on the right side of the bracket saw number 1 seed Fort Atkinson defeating number 4 seed Wisconsin Lutheran 3-0. And an upset, to say the least here. Number 3 seed Whitnall defeats number 2 seed Mount Horeb 3-1. Semifinals left side of the bracket saw Shawano defeating number 1 seed Fox Valley Lutheran again. I believe these games were streamed by NTC. Not sure what the series scores were for these two semifinals matchups. As Shawano defeated Fox Valley Lutheran left side of the bracket, and we saw number 1 seed Fort Atkinson defeating Whitnall in the right side of the bracket for the semifinals in Division 2. Hello. All right, and finally, capping off Division 2's playoff track record here, we had Shawano defeating Fort Atkinson in 6, taking it home 4-2, and Shawano is crowned a division champion for the first time. All right, let's shift gears here to Division 3. We are almost done here. All right, so the first round, left side of the bracket for Division 3. Number 1 seed Rural Virtual Academy defeated 8 seed Bigfoot 3-0. Number 4 seed East Troy defeated number 5 seed Lancaster 3-1. Number 3 seed West Salem defeated number 6 seed Watoma 3-0. Number 2 seed Edgewood defeats number 7 seed Jefferson 3-1. Right side of the bracket for the first round saw Walden defeating Ripon 3-0. Number 5 seed Two Rivers taking out number 4 seed Lodi 3-0. Number 3 seed Marshall taking out New Holstein, 3-0. And finally, Winnebago Lutheran defeating number 17 Nakusa via forfeit. Quarterfinals for the left side of the bracket saw number 4 seed East Troy getting the upset over number 1 seed Rural Virtual Academy 3-0. And number 2 seed Edgewood taking out number 3 seed West Salem 3-0. Right side of the quarterfinals bracket for Division 3 saw number 1 seed Walden defeating Two Rivers and number 3 seed Marshall upsetting number 2 seed Winnebago Lutheran 3-2. Semifinals left side of the bracket saw number 2 seed Edgewood defeating number 4 seed East Troy. And on the right side, we saw number 1 seed Walden defeating number 3 seed Marshall. And the grand finals for Division 3 was a rematch between Walden and Edgewood. Now, this time I was expecting it to be competitive, right? Turns out, absolutely not. Walden absolutely crushes Edgewood here, sweeping them in the grand finals to take home their second Division 3 championship since spring of 2020. Amazing stuff we saw from Walden, Shawano, and Waukesha South. But let's get on to the final division here, Division 4. Division 4 saw Bruce receiving a first round bye. Number 4 seed Williams Bay defeating number 5 seed Waiawega Fremont 3-0. Number 3 seed Real defeating number 6 seed Bondul 3-0. And Wisconsin Connections Academy receiving a first round bye in the left side of the bracket for the first round in Division 4. Moving on to the right side, we saw Random Lake receiving a first round bye. Number 4 seed BSMS defeating number 5 seed Warrior. Number 3 seed Deerfield defeating number 6 Cambria Friesland 3-0. Oh, I skipped over the BSMS score 3-0 there against Warrior. And Pacelli defeated Flambeau to close it out. Forgot the series score of that matchup. All right. Quarterfinals left side of the bracket saw number 1 seed Bruce defeating number 4 seed Williams Bay. Number 3 seed Real upsetting number 2 seed Wisconsin Connections Academy 3-1. Again, I skipped it over again. Bruce defeated Williams Bay 3-0. Quarterfinals, right side of the bracket saw number 4 seed BSMS taking out number 1 seed Random Lake, and there was the upset of this track record, if you will, or bracket for Division 4 here. Not many people expected BSMS to go as far as they did, but nonetheless, they took out Random Lake 3-0. And number 3 seed Deerfield gets the best of Pacelli as they take them out 3-0 in the quarterfinals. Moving on to the semifinals, left side of the bracket saw number 1 seed Bruce defeating number 3 seed Real 3-1. Semifinals, right side, number 4 seed BSMS versus number 3 seed Deerfield. BSMS came out on top. And finally, the grand finals for Division 4. The first grand finals for Division 4 consisted of number 1 seed Bruce and number 4 seed BSMS. And number 1 seed Bruce would take it home as they beat BSMS 4-1 to be crowned Division 4 champions and the first team to win a division title in Division 4, as this was the first year that Division 4 existed. Yeah, BSMS really started popping off, if you will, to get to the grand finals here. But yeah, so congratulations again to Waukesha South, Shawano, Walden, and Bruce for winning in the 2022 Spring Rocket League season. That's about all I have for notes wise for this season recap here. But I want to bring your attention to the Winter 2022 schedule here. If you have not seen it already, this will load. Okay. This is the winter schedule for the 2023 Winter Rocket League season. If you have not seen it, there it is. Obviously, you have the only one preseason game for both varsity and JV, and you have the 8 weeks following. And then you have playoffs, the first round, and then you have the quarterfinals, and then you have the state championship featuring the semifinals matchups and the finals matchups on March 16th. Fun fact, actually, week 7 JV schedule, that is my birthday. So if you did not know, that is my birthday. So that's kind of cool. That'll be pretty cool for me to cast on my birthday. So nonetheless, that's it for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this stream and me diving deep into the 2022 Spring Rocket League season. I am going to hop out of here and get some rest. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys soon.